Looking in from the outside, it seems like the dev space has been going under some massive changes. Whether it's caused by the impending doom of the past couple of years, or the more recent potential planetary destruction, it seems like what people are looking for in a position has been drastically changing. And this is true for positions working on proprietary projects just as much as open source projects. And while in the open source volunteering space, there seems to be absolutely no shortage of developers, documentation, things like that, it may not be that simple for employment. So a few days ago, the Linux Foundation put out this report, the 10th Annual Open Source Jobs Report, Critical Skills, Hiring Trends, and Education. This is a 57-page report, so I'm not going to be reading all of it today. If you'd like to do so, I'll leave it linked in the description down below. But what I want to do is talk about some of the key takeaways and sort of the state of the industry as it stands. So, this report mainly focuses around surveying people involved in the industry. They had around 1,900 open source professionals. This includes developers, middle management, DevOps, AI, big data, all of that stuff, and then a bit over 500 open source hiring managers. But not every single participant is going to be used for every single finding, because for some of the questions being asked, their experience just may not be valid. But with this number of participants, this is the most comprehensive report the Linux Foundation has ever done on this subject. So I guess the best place to start is with the hiring crisis. So last year, 92% of hiring managers reported difficulty finding open source talent. And this year, the trend seems to be continuing, with 93% reporting the exact same thing. But what did change is the availability of work. So last year, 52% of hiring managers reported reducing their hiring rate due to the impending doom. But they realized that you can't just reduce your hiring rate forever into the future. You eventually need to get new people. So 50% also said that they're going to raise their hiring rate in the next 6 months. And this trend continued into 2022, with 46% saying they plan to hire even more people. And due to this lack of developers and the increase in jobs available, 73% of open source professionals say they would find it comfortable to find a new position. The problem, though, is what the positions are offering and whether they would even want to work them in the first place. We'll get into that in just a bit, though. Now, I know this availability of work is not the case in every area of employment. There are a lot of areas where people are really struggling to find a job. But at least in the open source developer space, it seems to be turning a bit more into an employees market where the employees are really valuable and the employers have to go and fight over them, as opposed to an employer's market where the employer can have a ton of good applicants and then start turning away really good people in hopes of finding someone better. But even though there may be this availability of work right now, it's not like you just get handed a job literally out of nowhere. You do still need to make sure you're actually a valuable candidate that an employer would, want to hire. And one way to make yourself more valuable is to get the correct qualifications and certifications. Now, I can't give a general rule about what certifications you need to be getting. Anyone who's trying to give a general rule is probably trying to sell you a course. But what you do need to know is certifications are valuable. 69% of employees say they are more likely to hire someone with the certifications they're looking for, with 90% of employers also willing to pay their employees to get more certifications. Which unsurprisingly means that 80% of open source professionals, 80% of employees are planning to get additional certifications within the next 12 months. And what this focus on certifications means is there is less of a focus on prior experience, less of a focus on you've been a dev using this tech and that other tech for the past, 10 years, and more of a focus on you being able to demonstrate the skills you actually have available. Which is a good thing for basically everyone. Whether you're a new developer that's just, leaving university, leaving a course you've done, and you're trying to find your first position, or you're an experienced developer who's trying to move to some other company. The only people this is a bad thing for are for the people who've been working at a place for a really long time, but don't really do that much. They sort of just skate along, just sitting at the company, doing the bare minimum amount of work to make sure they don't get fired. Those are the only people this hurts, and I don't really mind that. Now, if you don't already have a position, or maybe you're thinking of doing a bit of a career redirection, I can't say specifically what areas you should be focusing on. I think you should focus on things you actually find enjoyable and you'll have a much better experience, but I can say what things are in high demand. So 69%, nice, of hiring managers are looking for cloud and container tech, 61% are looking for Linux, 57% are looking for DevOps, 34% are looking for cybersecurity, and then things like AI, web technologies, blockchain, they're further down the list, anywhere in the range of like 15 to 20-ish percent. But even though cybersecurity is in fourth place with 34%, 77% say they'll benefit from additional cybersecurity members. It doesn't necessarily mean more people in that dedicated position, but more people with some knowledge in that field. Take a developer, for example. Let's say you're developing a web application that's going to be publicly facing. It's much better to have someone who has, some understanding of cybersecurity and designs it in a way with security in mind, as opposed to someone who has literally no idea about it and does things that are, absolutely wild that lead to giant vulnerabilities. Obviously, it's much better to have someone who is in a dedicated position who can spend all their time working on this, but having some experience is probably better than nothing. But none of that is really that surprising when you find out that 77% reported seeing an increase in cloud usage over the past year, doing things, online. And all of these fields directly intersect with each other and directly intersect with doing things online. Obviously, cloud and container tech, but everything running on a web server pretty much is running on Linux. If you're developing stuff, you're probably going to need people involved in DevOps. If you're doing stuff online, you're going to need people involved in cybersecurity. Even going further down the list with AI and web tech and blockchain, all of this stuff is, based around doing stuff on the web. But amusingly, 2% reported seeing a decrease in cloud usage. I have no idea who these people are, what businesses they're working for, but I would love to know who they are. But anyway, if you make yourself valuable while there is a shortage of employees and a real demand for having more of them, it becomes much, much easier to negotiate, favorable terms for your contract. And 67% of employees say they'd like to see an increased salary. This is basically double any of the other responses, with 38% saying they'd like the opportunity to work on new and exciting projects, which may be a big part of the reason why there are so many developers working in the volunteer open source space. 36% saying they'd like to see a better work-life balance, and 30% saying they'd like flexible hours or telecommuting. They don't really want to be in the office, and if they're going to be in the office, they want to be in the office when they want to be in the office. And 68% of people say if their needs are not met, they're willing to find a new employer. So it's kind of no surprise then that a lot of employers are starting to listen, especially when they're already struggling to find people. 58% of employers say they're willing to offer salary increases above what their company norm usually would be. 51% would like to accommodate more flexible schedules. 43% will offer more training and certifications if people want to have them, which is also making it much easier to leave and find another company if you don't like what that company is offering. 34% are making open source talent bonus eligible, so working on open source projects, get paid more money. And 33% are supporting and contributing to projects that employees are passionate about. So if you're in the market for working on or working with open source tech, it seems like hope is turning in your favor. There is a severe lack of employees, and as long as you are sufficiently certified and able to actually demonstrate your skills, it shouldn't be that difficult to find work, and when you do find work, you should be able to negotiate a much better position. But I'm not personally employed in the open source space, so if you are, then let me know your experience. Maybe you're a new developer or an experienced developer, maybe you're not even a developer, maybe you're just doing some other position working with this tech. Does your experience resemble what is being shown in this report, or are you on the whole other end of the extreme and everything seems like it is falling apart and crumbling under your feet? I would love to know. And on that note, I'm going to end the video. Be sure to go and read the report in the description down below. If you like this video, I'm going to go and like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, go check out my Patreon, subscribe, starting BarrowPay, linked in the description down below. I've got a podcast called Tech Over Tea. I've got a gaming channel called Brody Robertson Plays. That's going to be it for me, and I'm out.